for New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is Monday, June 15th, 2013. And ladies and gentlemen, tonight I have a humdinger of a broadcast for you. If you remember, about 2 months ago, I did a broadcast on the birthday of the Illuminati, or the Bavarian Illuminati, I should say, correctly, May 1st. And I did a 2-hour broadcast about who they were. I tried to cover in a nutshell, when 2 hours is not enough time to cover it, but I tried to cover in a nutshell basically who they were. And you heard me mention a certain gentleman's name multiple times. That would be Fritz Springmeier. Well, ladies and gentlemen, rather than go back in the archives and play an older interview I did with him, or rather than tell you, because I know a lot of you do, but not everybody will go to the archive section and look up the interview I did with him last year, I figured, why not just bring Fritz back live for all of you to listen to? So that's exactly what I did. So joining me tonight for 2 full hours is one of the foremost experts that you're going to get to ever have a chance to hear from on the Illuminati right now, as of this day. And we're going to get into the basic structure of them. We're going to talk about some of the presidents. We're going to go over a bunch of stuff tonight. And that's why I'm just really excited to have Fritz back on. And by the end of the broadcast, you guys will have a better understanding about who the Illuminati are. We have about a minute before the break comes up, but I want to bring Fritz on really quick and have him say hi to everybody. And then when we come back, the first segment's always short. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give the floor to Fritz, and we're going to just dive right into the Illuminati, mind control, and more. So really quick, Fritz, welcome to the broadcast, brother, for your second time.
Hey, it's great to be on. Hi to all your listeners. Thank you, Popeye, for having me back.
Well, I got to tell you, Fritz, it is an honor to be able to sit down, A, and even chat with you, but B, I'm honored that, we're friends, and that I learn a lot from you. I chat with you back and forth on Facebook here and there, but I learn a lot just from listening to your updates and the things that you post on Facebook, and I'm honored just to be able to pick your brain, man. Like I said, you really are what I would say the number one expert on the Illuminati. I'm going to cut us off really quick because the break is sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. In 59 short seconds, when this break is over, we're going to come back for a nice 15-minute segment with Fritz Springmeier. Don't go anywhere. Check out his website, pentrax.com. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Going in the break, I threw out Fritz's website. I'm going to have him promoted a couple times tonight, but really quick, you can check his website out. It's called pentracks.com. Pen, like the object you would write with, tracks, like what you would leave in the dirt.com. So pentracks.com. It's Fritz's personal website. You can get all of his books there. I suggest you buy them right from the website because that way you're 100% supporting his work. I urge you to do so. I have learned a ton of stuff from Fritz, even before, years and years and years before I ever got the chance to even interview him. His books are well worth any penny that you will pay for them. So let's get right into it. Fritz, the basic structure of the Illuminati, the term Illuminati is, I think, I don't want to say misused, but it's become kind of pop culturist. People really don't know that that this is a secret society and that there is an actual structure to it and everything else. And I think they only know, if they know anything about it, people know Illuminati, secret society, and that's it. They shady organization, and then powerful people are supposedly members of it, but they really don't know anything about it. So let's start with the basic structure of the Illuminati. Like, what is it?
These are powerful bloodlines that go way back to antiquity. If you look at Nimrod, you look at the pharaohs, the Caesars, they were considered gods by their people. And these powerful bloodlines that ruled the rest of us, they ruled the slaves and the serfs, they never went away. They kind of went underground, but they have continued control, and they coalesced into secret society. They are actually a secret society back in antiquity too. When you read Manly Palmer Hall, he talks about how there was a controlling council that controlled all of the secret societies, the mystery religions back in ancient times. Well, that was the Illuminati. And then, like you were saying, that the Bavarian Illuminati had a birthday, July 4th, 1776, and that was one branch that they created. When I've worked with people that were in the Illuminati, I got the evidence that these bloodlines, as an organized group, went way back before the Bavarian Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati was just one branch that they created. And then, of course, that branch branched out. We look at the Order of the Skull and Bones. That would be a chapter of the Bavarian Illuminati, which in turn is a chapter of the larger Illuminati. Like you say, it's become pop culture. The younger generation think that the word Illuminati belongs to them. I've seen the younger generation start laughing when they see an older person use the word. But they, like you say, they really don't understand what it means. Some of their hip hop, some of their entertainers like Lady Gaga or Paris Hilton or Jay-Z or Beyonce, they're using all these Illuminati hand signs and using the word, but the younger generation really don't understand that the movers and shakers of the world, the people that are the decision makers are this secret society. The mother of secret societies called the Illuminati.
Yeah, and often most people don't realize that there is, like I said, some sort of structure to it. And I remember the last time we talked, you said that there was actually different. I think you said there was like 3 different degrees to the Illuminati secret society itself.
Well, 3 tiers.
That's what I meant. 3 tiers.
Yeah, and then because we have different chapters or different branches, it's not the organization or the names of the different levels aren't exactly the same. Like, let's say you were in the Order of the Skull and Bones. The terminology that you would be using there might be different than the original Bavarian Illuminati. The terminology kind of differs from branch to branch, but basically there's three levels. There's the anarchy level, and the anarchy level is set up to just look like grassroots organizations. You may have some coven, for instance, out in California that seems to be some grassroots coven. But within that coven, there'll be three people that are intimately aware that they're connected to the Illuminati. And one of them will be sending reports back to Europe, to their headquarters. So it's possible somebody could be within an anarchy level group and not be fully cognizant of what they're involved with. And then there's a priesthood level called the hierarchy level. And within that level, you'll see like the Sisters of Light, the Mothers of Darkness, then a grandmother. And I got the privilege of exposing their headquarters, which they ended up moving from that castle. And they're in southern Belgium. They've moved their headquarters because of the exposure. And then above that are your spatial positions, which are your councils and committees. And so those are your three basic levels there. They also, one could say, the Black Brotherhood, the Red Brotherhood, and then the Great White Brotherhood. So you have three basic levels, and all of the different branches don't have exactly the same nomenclature as you go up, but it's a similar structure.
And a lot of it's compartmentalized, so the lower ranking ones have no idea about the higher ranking ones.
Exactly. In fact, there's a couple organizations that are analogous to the Illuminati, the Mafia, and then your intelligence cults, where you have the idea that you learn on a need-to-know basis. It's surprising how many similarities there are between the Mafia structure and the Illuminati. A lot of the same methodologies. Both organizations have like 10, 20, 30, 40-year goals. They'll have a 20-year plan, a 40-year plan, and in their meetings they'll discuss these. So I've talked with people from both categories who talk about the way these meetings go, and they sound very similar. In fact, some of the Mafia families are Illuminati, so there's a lap over there. Likewise, with the Chinese Triad, some of the Chinese Triad families are also Illuminati.
Does that include some of the Japanese royal family too? Because I know I've seen this supposed Japanese princess on videos and being interviewed by different people saying that the Japanese royal family. I don't want to say that I don't know if they're connected, but she said that she mentioned the Illuminati multiple times. Blah 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 blah. So I mean, would the Japanese royal family be connected to any of these bloodlines too, or are they just a lower level?
I have been trying to over the years see if I can find any connections, and I haven't found any. But I definitely see that Japan is working in concert with things, so I'm not exactly sure how the connections are there, but I can say this, that the Japanese government is working within the framework of the New World Order and so forth. But I have seen no evidence that there are any Japanese within the actual, what you would call, I mean, they don't have card-carrying members, they don't carry cards around, but I haven't seen any that are members of the Illuminati. Where I know definitely within the Chinese is a large number of Chinese Illuminati. Leon Gwengan, who is like the second wealthiest Illuminati kingpin in the world. He's last I had read, he was worth over 10 billion US dollars. He's also on the Chinese Central Committee of their government, at Peking, Beijing. He's Illuminati. The Lee family's Illuminati. There's the triads were used by the British in Hong Kong, and so there, the British royal family is Illuminati, and they worked through the triads in Hong Kong for years to do all kinds of nefarious things, run drugs, move gold, and whatnot. In fact, the triads are a far more serious organized crime group than the mafia. It's just that they haven't gotten the attention, which is another reason why they're far more widespread and far more powerful. Is everybody's focused on the Italian mafia and not even focused hardly at all on. I'm talking about law enforcement especially, but also the movie industry and so forth haven't really focused much on the triad. So,
you ever wonder if that's done on purpose?
Yeah, I think it is, because as far as the Illuminati is concerned, the triads are a lot more beneficial to them. You go back to the Golden Triangle, how a large percentage of the drugs are created and manufactured in China for distribution in Europe and America. We're using at least a ton a day in this country of opiates, so it's taking. There's large shipments that have to come in to take care of the United States, and so it's a large operation, and
it's a lot of money.
A lot of money, and China is very big part of all of that, even though the news media doesn't really point them out as a culprit.
Well, you can tell just by you're not even allowed to paint them in a negative light at all. Look at the new Red Dawn movie. It came out originally. The Chinese were the new invaders in the new version of it, because back in the day it was the Russians and the Cubans. But this time it was supposed to be the Chinese, and the Chinese said, "No, you're going to change that." And they literally went back and they changed it to the North Koreans, and now I don't even think the movie has been released because it's had to go through so many changes and all this other drama that I don't even think it's come out. So, I mean, that's a lot of power. It makes you wonder why. But what you just said, that makes a lot of sense. Now, because they get to stay in the dark. The Italian mafia, which is what everybody thinks when they hear mafia or mob, right? They get put out front. And perhaps there was a deal done on the back end that said, look, you guys are going to be more noticeable than we are. That's just the way it is. You'll benefit in this way, and this way. Do you want to play ball, or do you not want to play ball? That's what I could. That's the way I could see it going. We got a break sneaking up on us, so I'm going to cut us off. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. More on the Illuminati mind control. We're going to go deep down the rabbit hole tonight. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Fritz Springmeier. All right, we are back. It's a short segment. We got about 5.5 minutes, so I want to pack in as much as we can to it. Fritz, like I was saying during the break, and I had to stop myself because I didn't want to, push this train of thought out and then move on and forget to say this on air. But the word Illuminati, I think it was misused and overused back in the day as a way of, programming people. like Pavlovian way, in a sense, that when people say Illuminati in a serious sense, it's kind of laughed at. It's pop culture-ish, and you see it overused on T-shirts now. There's an Illuminati clothing line, and you see the symbols used in random clothing and in music videos. I mean, if you go to tattoo shops and you look at Tattoo Flash, most people don't realize this, but even old school Tattoo Flash has a lot of Illuminati symbolism hidden inside of it, and people just don't realize it, and they blindly get this stuff tattooed on them, and they're walking around with it on them. I mean, I even had some stuff on me. I actually had it lasered off after I realized what some of it was. So, I'm not kidding. I had the Eye of Horus on me at one point. Goodbye. There's a few other things I had on me that I had to get rid of. The only thing I kept was I do have the all-seeing eye tattooed on my chest, and everybody asks me why, and I tell them because you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. It reminds me every day to keep my eye on the ball. When I get up and I look in the mirror and I see that tattoo, it reminds me who we're up against. But all the other crap that I had on me, that I unwittingly put on me, I had actually laser removed, so that I have no more Illuminati symbolism on me, and it blew my mind once I started researching this, how much is out there, Fritz.
You're so right, and I think that's what's happened in recent years is people are just following what's trendy, and they don't have a good idea of what they're doing. I lost track of what I was going to say. Anyway, it's good to see that at least one person, yourself, caught on and went a different direction. As far as inundating us with, like the term Big Brother, that came out in George Orwell's 1984, and it had a special connotation. But now they're like broadcasting the term Big Brother in a lot of different ways to water down the meaning of it. And they watered down the meaning of New World Order. You saw that in professional wrestling. So you're right. They take these terms and then they create some other diversionary meaning. And so if you're going to type something in on the internet, you're going to get all these diversionary meanings instead of zeroing in on what the original meaning was. I don't think it's by accident that they're obfuscating the whole issue.
Yeah, and they have to, because they don't want people to research this. I mean, with the internet, the prolific just spread of information is the only way to put it. Knowledge is spreading, and I know that the internet was released with the idea of being able to track us, but I don't think they actually thought that we'd be smart enough to turn around and do with it what we've done. Because they really do believe that we are stupid cattle. And suddenly the cows figured out how to use the computers. And they don't like that. And that's why you hear Jay Rockefeller saying things like, the internet never should have existed. Well, that's easy for you to say, Rockefeller, but the genie's out of the bottle. So, and they're really scared. You could see it in their actions. They are scared that the knowledge is getting out, Fritz.
Yeah, the internet right now, I would compare it to the Wild West. When South Africa had to be settled, it was a wild country with pioneer-type people. The United States, when it was being settled, was lawless, and people were allowed. But at some point, they're going to start roping it in. They're going to start settling it down and making laws, controlling it, civilizing it, if you want to look at it in a perverted way. And I think they'll civilize, bring their order to the internet at some time, because they're losing ground. The internet's gotten out of their control, and it's a great tool.
And
it's a great tool for us.
That pacification that they want to take place, where they make everybody civilized. Bush talked about that, what he actually meant about that. And they consider us right now like wild animals. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Fritz and I will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Don't worry, hour 2, we're going to get a little bit in-depth into mind control, and you're going to see how that actually segues back into the presidents and stuff like that, and some of the politicians, and again into these bloodlines and everything. But I think it's really important to talk about the Illuminati. I'm going to have Fritz plug his book, the Quintessential Illuminati Research Book, I would say, in a second, and I'm going to have him throw out his website. But I want everybody to remember one important fact. These people, the Illuminati, have not gone away. They are not a past tense thing. They are not in a memory, and we only talk about them to bring it up and talk about history. This is still going on to this very day. They are connected to the government that we have today. In fact, our first president on the books of the United States of America, George Washington, actually talked about them in his memoirs. And you can go to or whatever I think they were his diaries. I think it was. You can go check it out at the Library of Congress. It's there. But he talked about how they were coming in and through New York, and they were already trying to subvert the then very young country. And he was actually in a letter. It was back and forth, and I forget who he was talking to, but he was saying that he was basically like, no, I don't think that it's they're not a problem. On quite the contrary. I don't think anybody out there is a stronger believer than me that these people actually are coming in. But he didn't think that all Freemasons were bad. I think he understood how. The truth about it, which right now people always say, oh, Freemasonry is evil, it's the Illuminati, blah, blah. They don't understand that there's the blue degrees, then the outer ring, the inner ring. And I think Washington understood that, and I think that that's what he was talking about when he brought that up. But before I get into that, and before we dive into that, first start off with, go ahead and tell everybody about your book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, where they can get it on the site, and then give them the website info and stuff.
Okay, great. It's a wonderful book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It's I wrote a 7-book series on the Illuminati, but the book that sold the most, and it's also translated into Japanese. It was put out by KK Bestsellers in Japan and was on the monthly bestseller list when it sold there. It sold real well here in the United States too. There's been I don't know how many copies have sold, but easily 100,000 of them. So the Bloodlines of the Illuminati is a good historical book. It has a lot of genealogy charts, has a lot of history on the top Illuminati bloodlines, and it can be gotten at my website, which is pentracks.com. Like Popeye has previously mentioned. That's pentracks.com. And you were mentioning George Washington. And, George Washington was definitely from the upper class, and he was from one of these elite bloodlines, actually the Merovingians, because he ties in with the Plantagenets. So he and other early American presidents, which were from Virginia, were not lower class. And he was a Freemason. The Freemasons get a lot of mileage from the fact that he was a Freemason. But that doesn't mean that he was an Illuminati member. There was a very high-ranking Freemason who was a top scientist. He was very respected in Europe. He was Scottish, James Robison, and he wrote a book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, for that time period, and he tried to warn Washington how the Bavarian Illuminati was going into German and French Masonic lodges and Illuminizing them, and how they were setting up reading clubs through the Jacobins that you were talking about. How they were coming over and creating different organizations here in the United States. And what they did was, during that time period, is they at William and Mary University, they created Delta Kappa Epsilon, and then from Delta Kappa Epsilon, they branched out and created Scroll and Key and the Skull and Bones and some of these other secret society chapters. And like you were saying, Washington was aware that the Illuminati was moving from Europe over here to America, and he definitely was part of the group of people that were trying to warn Americans. There was a series of ministers that wrote books and gave sermons warning the people about the Illuminati back then during George Washington's presidency. And like you were saying, people were alarmed for a while, and then after a while they moved on and they went to other things. It was like that held their attention for a while, and then they moved on to something else, like so often happens in life.
Well, the manipulators, these people, the way they control us, and I know we're going to dive into this when we talk about the mind control, but I mean, they know that they've dumbed down the American public so that people now have, what is it, like a 4-minute attention span, 4 or 5 minutes, and that's it. If they watch a YouTube video or anything for a longer period of time than that, they're usually zoning out. I would say with the advent of Netflix, people are learning probably a little more because they're able to lay, 3 o'clock in the morning when they can't sleep, they start going through, let's see what's, I've seen enough dumb TV shows, and they start going through some documentaries. But the problem is there's not enough exposure on a platform like that to people like yourself or to documentary filmmakers that might have interviewed you and other people. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the only stuff you'll if you look up mostly anywhere, any of these video streaming services, except I'm not talking about YouTube, but like Netflix or anything like that. If one of these DVD places, Blockbuster, if you look up the Illuminati, it's some campy B flick that's completely garbage, or a Dan Brown, type movie or something like that. None of it's real.
Right. Well, and you're hitting upon one of the concerns I have, and that is the people have had their thinking programmed to dislike reality. Reality hurts. If you watch the 6 o'clock news, it's just trauma after trauma. It's bad news after bad news. If you try to deal with real life, you go to work and you have a bad job and you're being treated wrong, and on and on. So people like to zone out. They like to pull away from reality. They like to watch a fictional movie. They like to read a novel. And I have to congratulate your listeners, because obviously they're one of the few out there that still want to be in touch with reality. That's part of the problem is people are afraid of reality. They're running from it.
It really cracks me up that in a movie or a TV show they could accept that the president has there's a show, for instance, called Scandal. It's about politics and everything, and the president has this quiet little team that he refers to, and they take care of things. They assassinate people if need be, all this other stuff. And it just cracks me up because people buy this stuff and love it and eat it up, tons of it on TV. And they love the storyline, and they know every little thing about the characters, oh no, he was connected to this company, and oh, he's a bad guy. He knows this terrorist, and oh, their family goes way back. And then you look at them and you're like, that actually happens in real life. Oh, you're crazy. Stop it. That doesn't happen in real life. And you just look at them and you're like, you realize that you know all of the important information, but you know it about a fictitious person, not a real individual. And this stuff actually really is going on, but you could actually learn the same type of drama and info, and it would be like a movie, except it's actually real. But people can't accept that. I think a lot of it, sometimes I think if it's too scary, it's easier for them to pretend that it's just fake.
Right.
And a lot of that all coincides with a lot of the mind control, and there's also cognitive dissonance where people just get so much that they tune out and they're done. And if it's not, I mean, I've heard people say they don't even care about the news anymore. They don't want to know what's going on in the world. They'd rather just watch TV or anything. And then when they watch TV or media, their opinions are formulated for them via the whole massive mind control mechanism that is the entertainment industry. So no wonder people don't look into things like this or laugh and point when you say Illuminati. That's why it was important that I wanted to get a little bit of the basics about the structure. But like you said, you actually named a really good book. Robeson's book is awesome. I actually just got a reprint of it not too long ago. I found a copy on Amazon, and I suggested if anybody really wants to learn who the Illuminati are, who they are. Everybody always says, who's they? Well, the Illuminati. And then people go, well, who are the Illuminati? Well, I can't point and say George Bush is the Illuminati. That would be wrong. He's part of the syndicate that is the Illuminati, but he's not them. They're not in charge. I would venture a guess that the guys that are probably hot at the very tippy top will never know their names. It's like, the way I could give it a visual is, if you look at like some of these Italian mafia guys, the higher up guys, like in Italy, when they find them, they live in this tiny little modest house in like a crowded section of a city, and everybody's, why the hell would he live there? Guy's got all this power, everything else. Why wouldn't he be flaunting it? That's why he had the power for that long, because you didn't know who he was. That's the anonymity is their greatest tool and their greatest power and their greatest weapon. And that's the best visual I could give. So somewhere at the very top, there's somebody that we don't know. We'll probably, I mean, short of, I don't know, arresting these people, and even then, they probably don't even know. There's probably like 2 or 3 people that know the truth about the very tippy top, and that's it, because everything's compartmentalized all the way down. That's how they control their own people. They control their own just like they control us, right?
Yeah, and I've been watching the whole thing, like what you're discussing. In this area, one of the Grand Masters actually got promoted to Ipsissimus. I've shaken hands with him, and Manly P. Hall, in his book, The Secret Teaching of All Ages, on page 100, which is page C, since he uses Roman numerals, on page C, which is page 100, he says that rank is indicated within the mystery religions, and that's what the Illuminati are, is they're the continuation of the mystery religions. He says that an Ouroboros, that's a snake swallowing its tail, and he talks about a silver ring, and then the next level up is a gold ring. And when I met this Illuminati kingpin, he was a Grand Master. He had a silver ring showing his Illuminati rank, a silver Ouroboros ring. And then when he got promoted from Grand Master to Ipsissimus, he got a gold ring. He switched to gold ring. Anyway, unless you knew how rank was indicated in the Illuminati, his rings wouldn't have meant anything. But I'm bringing him up because he lives in a modest middle-class house, and the only way that you would be tipped off that he's not a normal person is his entire adult life he's never had a regular job. But he does fly underneath the radar, and he's an example of what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, anonymity is their greatest weapon, their greatest tool, their greatest asset, everything. I'm going to cut us off, Fritz, because we got a break sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Be right back. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the point of no return. We reached the point of no return a long time ago, and that's why you have to arm yourself with this knowledge so you can understand who you're up against, because the best way to understand your enemy is to know who your enemy is. Otherwise, you don't have any chance of ever defeating them at all. Just remember that. So, with that in mind, Fritz, I talked about the Freemasons before I brought them up, and how there's different degrees and what you'd call like what Albert Pike called the blue ring, or the blue degrees of Masonry, and then like the inner ring. And I have a family member who is a member of the Freemasons going back like 30 years, and I've never gone and sat down with him and tried to even bother to bring this up, because I know he doesn't know about I understand how it works, and I've tried to explain. It's been in talking to other family members. I've tried to explain how the local Freemasons at your local lodge, most of them have no idea what's going on. Doesn't matter if they're a Master Mason or whatever they tell you. I'm telling you, a lot of them. I would say 75 to 8% of them at least have no idea, if not all of them, have no idea what's going on, because it's meant that way. Pike talked about how they had this buffer zone around them, and that's what they have there, the blue degrees. And then the inner cabal are the ones that don't know, or the ones that know what's going on, but the outer ones don't even know that this inner cabal exists. That's how they stayed hidden, because they infiltrated the Freemasons. The Freemasons already existed. The Illuminati infiltrated them, as it were, and what better place to hide than inside of a secret society, right? So it's literally a secret society inside of a secret society, this inner core inside of an already secret society, the Freemasons. But a lot of people, they go one way or another. It's either, no, my uncle or my cousin or my brother or whoever is a Freemason, and you're wrong, they're charitable. I've seen them raise money for cancer awareness, which those are the blue degrees, the outer rings, right? The buffer zone, like Pike talked about. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where people go, oh my God, Freemason, you must know the Illuminati, and you must blah, because they don't understand that there's this gray area. And they don't understand the minutia of that gray area, which it's important to understand. Again, they can actually get a pretty good understanding out of a lot of this from your books. But people need to take the time to read. And go get Robeson's book. I mean, you'll see how they infiltrated the reading, what they call them, the reading groups, and all these different little societies that they would sit down and have conversations and talk about politics or whatnot. It was all infiltrated. And his book is a great piece of information. If you're you got to take the time to read. Turn off the computer. Seriously, turn off all electronic devices, your phone. Maybe put on a little bit of music, and that's it. And just sit and read, and let your brain soak in this knowledge. And get Fritz's books too, all of them. Go to his site, pentrax.com, and get all of his books, because they all kind of lead into one another. And you won't be sorry, trust me. And then you also help a good guy who's put his life on the line, literally. Okay. To get this information out over the course of time. But anyway, Fritz, what say you?
Well, you did such a wonderful job there, Popeye, of giving an overview of that, because it's exactly as you say. People are black and white about the Freemasons and don't understand that some of the Freemasons that join that only get to the first or second degree. I've heard the expression porch masons. They're the ones that help pay the dues to keep the light bill on, and they're really not cognizant of the secret society within the Freemasons, like you say, the Satanists and the Illuminati that are in there. In fact, if you are a high-ranking Satanist, they oftentimes will fast-track you in Freemasonry, and within like a week, you'll go from the first degree up to the 32nd degree, where all these other Freemasons have to slug it out degree by degree. So it's exactly like what you were saying. I wanted to pull together some pieces here. We mentioned James Robeson's great expose, Proofs of a Conspiracy. And he was a very respected man at the time that he wrote this, and it's an excellent book, like you say. And in his book, he gives the initiation of Regent level, which was a level within the Bavarian Illuminati. And when people broke into the Order of the Skull and Bones tomb, into their building, that actually the words of this one level of ritual that I just mentioned were up on the wall in one of the rooms. In other words, that was the physical proof that the Order of the Skull and Bones is actually a chapter of the Bavarian Illuminati, and that they practice that level of initiation.
Wow,
So,
I didn't even know that.
Speculating.
I didn't even realize that, Fritz. That's a little tidbit that I hadn't even. It skipped my radar. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out myself, because see, learn something new every day, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I like doing this broadcast. I'm gonna cut us off because the end of the first hour is sneaking up on us. Wow, it went by fast. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We got 59 short seconds, and then we'll be right back. So it's not that long of a wait. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is July 15th, 2013. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com, and tonight I am joined by Illuminati researcher extraordinaire and all-around awesome human being, Mr. Fritz Springmeier. And Fritz actually educated me a little bit going there into the break at the end of the first hour, and he was talking about Robeson's book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, which I suggest you go check out. You need to make it part of your research library. You know how I am about having physical copies. Anyway, quick, short first segment. We have about 3 minutes, Fritz, but go back and repeat what you said going into the break about what was written in his book, and then when they got into the Skull and Bones rooms, they found the same things written on the wall. Go ahead and tell the listeners what the little bomb you just dropped.
Okay, in the Bavarian Illuminati, one of the levels is the regent degree, and within that regent degree, Robeson said that there was a ceremony where they have this skeleton and they have a crown and a sword, and the initiate to that degree is asked whether the skeleton is a king, a nobleman, or a beggar. And in 1876, there was a group that broke into the Order of the Skull and Bones building, the tomb, and they went into several of the rooms, and they recorded what they found. And up on the wall, they found those words. And then there's also one of the Bones membership books also has those words. But the writing in their temple was in German. It was Verweser, Bettler, oder Kaiser, which in German means the same thing that Robeson wrote in English. In other words, whether it's a wise man or a beggar or a king, Verweser, Bettler, oder Kaiser. For those who speak English, speak German, they'll know what I'm saying. So that membership book and what was found on the wall are proof that they carry out that Illuminati ritual within their tomb, the building that they call the tomb, or actually other people call it the tomb. It's their temple.
And this is not a joke. This isn't, tinfoil hattery, oh, you're crazy. This stuff is the real deal. And I knew, like I said, I said to you during the break, I knew that Skull and Bones was an offshoot of the Illuminati, of the Bavarian Illuminati, but I didn't realize that there was that kind of physical verification, I guess, out there for us. And that's because I haven't had a chance. I have Robeson's book, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet because I'm so busy doing the broadcast and taking care of the site and everything else. There are sometimes even I have to put things on the side, but his book is actually one of the books that I've been dying to read, and now you just made me want to bump it up to the top of my list as soon as I'm done reading Jim Garrison's book on the JFK assassination. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, nice long segment. We're going to get into satanic ritual abuse and mind control. Stay tuned. We are back. Nice long segment. Again, to understand really anything about the Illuminati, you have to do your research, being able to, I couldn't fit it all into 2 hours, and there's a ton of other stuff that I want to pick Fritz's brain about. So do yourselves a favor, go to pentracks.com and get Fritz's books. Go get Robeson's book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, okay? Make sure, his book, I'm telling you, his book will coincide with Fritz's book, and I haven't even read it yet, and just by Fritz, just knowing what's in it, I got it, okay? Without even being able to actually digest what's in there, I know that it'll coincide with his work. So I can't wait to actually, now I'm really chomping at the bit, as it were, to tear into it. Fritz, satanic ritual abuse. I want to switch gears here. Well, it's not really switching gears because it goes right in line with the Illuminati, but satanic ritual abuse. A lot of people think, or I don't want to say satanic ritual abuse, maybe we call it whatever anybody wants, Satanism, whatever, Satan worshiping mingled in with mind control, but I would call it satanic, I guess satanic ritual mind control abuse would be a good way to put it, because that's all rolled into one, and that's kind of what, because it's a multifaceted thing. But when people hear Satanism, they laugh. They go, "Oh, stop it. You're watching horror movies, Popeye." And I say, no, Satanism really exists. And I remember a story that you told me about you actually interviewed a guy that had, he had, I guess, found out about it or whatever, and he was deputized, and him and the police actually interrupted a ceremony. And so you know yourself, I mean, and I know besides that, you know from your own research that this is real. So when you hear Satanism, you don't have that programmed response, ha 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 ha. When you hear Satanism, you think major problem, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I've seen lots of proof of it, and interviewed lots of witnesses to these ceremonies. So yeah, I don't laugh at it. It's when you think of children being sacrificed and even adults being sacrificed, human sacrifice, and I mean, sometimes I make jokes like, would you like some eyeball stew or something? But to think that they actually cannibalize their victims. I mean, we're talking gross stuff, but it actually happens. I had one woman, a friend of hers knew about what I was about in my research, and she actually escaped being sacrificed. And I got to interview her, just like I interviewed this young man who interrupted two children from being sacrificed, and called the police, and the police got there in time to assist him in stopping the sacrifice of those two children. But of course, our controlled media, if you look at who owns the media, you see that they're Illuminati. These Illuminati kingpins control our media, and stories like this get killed. I had a brother-in-law who was a policeman in Kansas, and he talked about how he was a local cop, and how someone in the area had photographed with telephoto lens a human sacrifice and brought it into their police department, and then the Kansas Bureau of Investigation was contacted. They came down and suppressed the whole thing. So that typically happens, is a lot of these stories get suppressed.
Well, this is like a very taboo subject. This is something that nobody likes to talk about.
Yeah.
It's amazing. People will talk about a lot of things, but this is something that they don't really, really want to talk about. Something that's kind of, and if you notice, if it does get brought up, it doesn't get, the satanic, rituals where they actually sacrifice people, that kind of stuff, that end's not talked about. The only end that's talked about are the maybe pedophiles and the guys that the people that procured the children that would have been used at sex parties, and who knows, maybe used in some of these kids were, they are never heard from again, get used in these rituals. And You only hear about the guys like Saville or Sandusky that were actually the procurers of children. You don't actually hear about the people that they actually got the kids for higher up. In the Sandusky case, you heard about right in the beginning. There was a little bit of talk that he was getting kids for rich people and stuff. Well, what do you think some of these rich people do with these kids? Yeah, some of them just have sex with the kids, which is horrific enough, and that should be cause enough to want to stop it. But some of them actually take these kids and use them in these satanic rituals, and they sacrifice them and they kill them. And I know that's horrific for people to hear, but it's the truth. Is it not, Fritz?
That's true. In 1995, I was out on a speaking circuit for Prophecy Club, and when I was in Kansas City, I met an ex-priest of the Church of Satan, and he had been one of their high priests. And he told me that when they were recruiting him, that they had taken him to a number of parties, and they had said, any woman here at this party, if you want her, we'll just snap our fingers and she'll be yours. And as he got into the organization, the Church of Satan, he learned firsthand how these women are sexual slaves under mind control. And this gets back to what you were saying. The satanic ritual abuse is used as a tool to bring people under mind control. It's called trauma-based mind control. And I have 2 big books exposing in detail how it's done. And again, if people will go to my website, pentracks.com, they can get the formula book or the Deeper Insights book. And I go through, the first book, the formula book, is 500 pages. And then Deeper Insights into the formula is 600 pages. And it's like, my approach is let's say you were talking to somebody who questioned that airplanes existed. Well, what I do is I say, okay, here are the plants that make the parts for the airplane. Here is how they make the parts. Here are all the parts. Here are how they assemble the parts. And I give you the entire blueprint. And you can see there piece by piece how it's all put together. And after that, if you want to deny that there are planes, fine. But I've never had anybody that read those books ever doubt that the mind control is going on, because when they finish reading those books and they start looking around, they see it all around them. This stuff is all around us, and once you're keyed in, you'll be teaching yourself every day. I'm amazed. People that read my books, they're giving me information. They're teaching me about the things that they're seeing, because now they're hip to what's going on.
I agree. It's like putting on the Hoffman sunglasses, the glasses that Rowdy Piper wore in They Live, and he puts them on, and all of a sudden he's looking at the billboards, and it says consume and obey, and he looks at the money, it says this is your God. Once you put those sunglasses on, although it's not a physical pair that you can take on and off, once you've had that veil lifted off of your eyes, I guess once you can see the Matrix for what it really is, it's hard not to see it everywhere. I mean, everywhere I go, sometimes my wife can't stand it because we'll be walking through the mall or through the store, and I'll be like, look. And now it's to the point where she doesn't even read this stuff. She doesn't listen to my radio show. Once in a while she'll catch my show or anything, but she hears me talk about it, and once in a while I'll sit her down and I'll try to point something out to her. But just from me pointing stuff out when we're walking around in public, now she does it and she sees it. So and she's like, damn it, I can't unsee it. And I said, I know, that's the beauty of it. Once that seed has been planted, it doesn't go away. See, that's the beauty about the truth. Once you can see the truth, they can try to cover it and hide it as much as they want, but the more they do that, the more you're going to see that they're covering it up and hiding it, and the more it reinforces that they're lying to you. So, I think it's good that people can see what's going on. I know a lot of this is scary, though. I think that's one of the things when at least when it comes to the mind control aspect and Definitely the satanic ritual abuse stuff and the satanic rituals and Satanism and stuff. I know that stuff. A lot of people are like, "Wow, that just sounds really out there." But look, it doesn't matter what you believe, right? You could have been brought up a good Christian person or a good Jewish person or a good Muslim person, whatever, and you don't believe in that stuff, and you say, "Oh, come on, that's hocus pocus, whatever." Okay, that's fine. You may not believe in that stuff, but there are sick, twisted individuals out there that do, and they actually do human sacrifices. So whether or not you believe in it is really irrelevant because it really does exist. I know people that, like Fritz said, it doesn't matter if you believe in planes or not. I don't believe planes exist. I think they're a figment of your imagination. Well, look, go look up Boeing, okay? I don't know what to tell you. They're not a fictitious company. So it doesn't matter if you don't believe in them or not. This stuff really does happen. And unfortunately, the people with their hands on the levers of power believe in this stuff. So in order to understand how your enemy operates, you have to understand what they think. Again, you don't have to believe in it. I'm not asking you guys to go join the Church of Satan or the Church of Set or hang out with Anton LaVey, although I think he's dead. I don't know if Aquino is still alive, but he's, there you go. There's your connection to the military, Satanism, and mind control, right? All in one individual. I mean, this stuff is evil, and that's one of the things that they use the rituals and stuff for, too, is trauma-based mind control, because when they traumatize a human mind, the natural reaction in the human mind is to create a compartment to deal with that trauma. That way you don't go nuts. It's a very natural reaction, actually. It's not, it's like when they label PTSD that it's some sort of disease. No, that's actually a natural reaction to seeing some very horrific things. The problem is how they label PTSD, but the same thing happens with trauma-based mind control. They shatter someone's psyche by exposing them to something horrific, i.e. maybe they take a 5-year-old kid or 6-year-old kid to witness a baby being sacrificed and then devoured during a satanic ritual, which happens. And then that kid is traumatized, and that compartment is then later accessed because it literally they can take that compartment and create a personality out of it. That's what multiple personality disorder is. If someone has multiple personalities, they were abused and they were exposed to trauma-based mind control. Without a shadow of a doubt, that is not that just doesn't happen to people. It's a natural response to trauma, but the multiple personalities and stuff, that's an indication that natural response has been perverted and turned into something very sinister and sad for the individual that's gone through it. When I see Lady Gaga and people like her, Fritz, yeah. The first reaction almost by some people like us would be to mock her, and be like, what a slut or what a bimbo. I actually feel sorry for her, because when I see her, I understand the amount of trauma that poor girl must have been. But I'm not forgiving her for any of the things that maybe she's into or whatever. But honestly, she probably has so many personalities, one doesn't know the other one. And the amount of trauma that poor girl has been put through, if people understand what these mind control slaves go through, I think that, you know what I mean? I think they would have a better understanding, at least. I'm not trying to have pity for her, but you know what I mean, right?
Exactly. And that gets back to something that Christ said, which has been on my heart today, and that's judge not that you be not judged, We need to come at these people with love. They have been they've been victims, and it's not it's not in our domain. It's not our job to go around and judge these people. It's our job to show them a higher way of doing things, to show them love, and to get them out of the matrix.
Exactly, because that's the way we can actually solve some of these problems. Everybody, what's the solution? What's the solution? Well, like I say, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Love. Where does it come from? Inside of... All right, we are back. We have about 5 minutes here in this quick, short segment. I want to get Fritz's take on the what I said about multiple personalities and whether he agrees or has a different take on it. So, Fritz, the floor is yours.
Okay, you were doing a great job in the last segment. I was rooting you on. I was I was impressed. Back in 1991, I had done thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of hours of research on the Illuminati, and I had a friend who knew that I'd done a lot of research, and he passed by 4 women that were talking. He overheard them talking about the Illuminati, and he goes, "Hey, if you guys are interested in Illuminati, you got to meet my friend. He's a researcher and knows a lot." So anyway, we set up a meeting. Well, it turned out that these 4 women were in the Illuminati, and they had been teamed together while they were in the Illuminati, and they were likewise a support team for each other to escape. And when I got to know them, we set up a meeting, and when I got to know them, that was when I bumped into the Illuminati's trauma-based total mind control. All of these women were multiple personalities, and all of them had multiple personality systems. All of them were in therapy to try to break loose of the programming. So the way the programming worked is they couldn't just run at the mouth and tell me all these secrets about the Illuminati, because if they started to tell a secret, the mind control programming would shut them down and they would go into suicide programming. So over the years, working in the School of Hard Knocks, where it was a necessity, necessity is the mother of invention, I had to learn how to deal with the mind control to help these people. And that's how I learned about the trauma-based mind control and the MPD. And over the years, I learned enough that I wrote 3 books on it. Yeah, so I can go into detail about how they create the multiple personalities, how they program them, the codes that they use. In the formula book, I think there's like 40 pages of codes that they use on these the programming scripts and all.
That's available on Pentrax, right? Yes. That's the one with the super long title. Pretty much how to make it the formula for how to make a mind control slave, but it's a little longer than that. But you can buy that right on Pentrax, right?
Exactly.
That's one of those books, ladies and gentlemen, that I tell you need to get a physical copy of, because when you're researching mind control, you could listen to Fritz and I talk about this, but you're not going to have an understanding unless you can sit and read it and allow your brain to actually digest it. Sometimes it'll take 24 to 48 hours of sleeping on it and letting your brain mull it over to understand a little bit about this stuff. But, I mean, this stuff's real. And when we talk about the slaves, I brought up Lady Gaga earlier as an example, because she's one of these mind control slaves. And a lot of these entertainers, and I'm using air quotes when I say that, these entertainers, a lot of their shows, especially maybe the Video Music Awards, that's a perfect example. A lot of these things are rituals done right in front of your very eyes, and you just don't see it. And a lot of them, they're used as pawns to perform these rituals. So again, and I'm not forgiving anybody that is, if they're knowingly doing it and enjoying it, but I'm talking about the people that are put through this trauma. I mean, it's horrific. It's just horrific what's done to them. She recently had to cancel a tour due to a hip issue, right? And she was out for a couple of months. And when it first happened, I was listening to the description of what they revealed what the hip injury was. And you know what the first thing I thought was? I know one of the things they do to these girls, because they've all talked about it, is they pop their legs and their arms out of socket and then pop them back in as one of the ways of traumatizing them, and the pain is so excruciating that it shatters their psyche. So when I heard that she has this massive hip problem, and they're like, "Oh, it's from dancing," and I'm like, "At such a young age, that doesn't make any sense." And then I was like, unless they were popping her legs in and out of her hips and then popping them back into the sockets, then that would make sense. That would cause a lot more trauma, and that would be one of the ways that they probably shattered her psyche, because a lot of these older people that have gotten out of it, Kathy O'Brien, Bryce Taylor, others, have all said that one of the ways they traumatized them was popping their extremities out of the sockets and then back in to create excruciating amounts of pain. So do your research, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see the horrific things we're talking about. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. if you want to get a good physical, maybe visual, I should say is a better term, of like a visual example of what trauma-based mind control looks like, go watch the new version. I would suggest watching the original version of The Manchurian Candidate, if you can. Very interesting, especially since it was pulled. Frank Sinatra had it pulled from the shelves right after the Kennedy assassination. If you don't believe me, you can go back, and Mae Brussel actually did a broadcast about it in her archives. You'll find it. Actually, Conspiracy Scope over on YouTube has most of her stuff there, and I know that one's there. Look up, it's Mae Brussel, Frank Sinatra connection to the JFK assassination. She talks about it. Anyway, the remake is a really good movie with Denzel Washington. It's a really good example of what they can do with a mind-controlled operative. And how fast they can turn them on and off just with someone answering a phone, and they can, turn them on and off literally like a light switch. It's that simple. It's pretty scary that they've got it down to a science, but they do. But in that movie, there's a scene where he keeps having flashbacks, and he Denzel Washington, and he's in this room in the Middle East somewhere, wherever they got him, over in Iraq, and they're all lined up. And he puts the gun. One of them takes a gun. I think it was Denzel Washington. And he says, "Shoot, Private Baker," I think was his name. And he shoots him in the head. That is a perfect example of a trauma-based mind control session. What they're trying to do is create they're trying to traumatize him. They had him drugged, obviously, but he was aware enough that he could see what was going on. And even under this level of sedation, when he pulled that trigger, it's still, even whether or not you understand this, they do. Subconsciously, your brain understands what's going on. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're physically woohoo. Your brain understands what's going on, and it was just traumatized. You're numb with the cocktail of drugs, but your brain knows what's going on, and they are trying to cause enough trauma so that way they can shatter the psyche and literally create this new personality. And this personality can be raised up and trained and turned on and off. And it's another good example is The Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson from 1999. It also is a good example of false flag terrorism too. But if her character was a mind-controlled assassin, and it's a good way. Go watch some of the. So I know that some of this stuff is mainstream media crap, but it's a good way to kind of get an idea of what's really going on. If you have this level of knowledge, if you have the Hoffman sunglasses on, when you go back and watch this stuff, you'll see the hidden layers that you did not before. Now, segueing off of that, interestingly enough, there's another multiple that I had heard that he was a mind control multiple, but I wasn't sure, and I was, through research, I was pretty about 99% verified, and then when I had talked to you, I was able to, verbally, through chatting with you and then on air with you, verify that Bill Clinton himself is a mind-controlled multiple personality. And I guess even knowing that, just saying that out loud, Fritz, is kind of shocking, even just to, even though I know it, you know what I mean? Just having that come off my lips, knowing that a president, somebody who had his finger on the button, is a multiple, literally a puppet of somebody else, that's kind of creepy to say the least, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, and his successor, George Bush, 43rd president, was also a programmed multiple, which is why he was all over the place and came across as a total idiot a lot of the time. Yeah, both of them. And Clinton was groomed. He was being trained and groomed for the office of presidency from a little boy. That doesn't mean that they knew 100% that he would become president. They will groom a number of candidates, and then as time progresses, if the they'll make that final decision as to which one of their candidates is going to be most suitable. But all along in his life, he did things for them. In Oxford, he helped through the intelligence agencies working for the grand design of the Illuminati. He for a while he was a Rhodes Scholar. But the other thing that I was going to point out was is that he started he was a leader in the anti-war Vietnam War group over there, and this was all part of the Illuminati's plan to divide one generation from another and create a drug culture and all the rest. And then there were a lot of little things that Clinton did while he was president that if you understood the hand signs or understood the meaning of the words he would say, like, you know, in his inaugural speech, he said about the ceremony that we force the spring, you know, forcing the spring is a witchcraft term. I listened to a guy that was involved with putting up the ornaments on their Christmas tree, and about a third of them were occult ornaments, you know, that if you understood what they were, you realized, hey, these people are into witchcraft, you know. A lot of it goes by the general public, but when you realize what they're saying and doing, it stands out. You can see the witchiness in it. And then of course, Bill Clinton was in some really obvious groups, you know, like the Council of Foreign Relations and things like this, which are definitely tied in with the elite. So I probably said enough on Bill Clinton. Hillary is even higher in the Illuminati than him. And Bill's pretty good at talking to people and smiling and saying all the right words. Hillary's far more of a controller.
Is she his handler?
Probably at times. She's I've heard people that were around her, she's a scary person.
Yeah, I've heard, I mean, just not only, you know, knowing or reading what Kathy O'Brien wrote in her book, The Transformation of America, but other stories from other people, and just hearing her cackle about things. Like when she talked about when they killed Gaddafi. I mean, she literally cackled like the evil witch that she is. You know, whether it was done on purpose or just, you know, caught in a candid moment, her inner evil came out, whether or not she wanted it to. And maybe she wanted it to, but I mean, she is she's definitely evil. And I would assume if she's not his main handler, she's definitely got the keys. And what I mean by having the keys is they each mind-controlled slave, ladies and gentlemen, actually has a set of keys to access the different personalities. And when if you have access to the slave, generally you have the keys to. So if you're the full-time handler, or the main person who's controlling him, usually you have keys to all of them. But sometimes Kathy O'Brien explains a lot of this in her book. Bryce Taylor, Thanks for the Memories. There's just a ton of other books out there you need to sit down and read. You need to go to Pentrax and get all of Fritz's books. I'm telling you, if you don't, you're not going to understand this stuff. And I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like there's no way this could be real. It's a bad movie I'd see on the Sci-Fi Channel. Unfortunately, this is real. And it's some scary stuff. But this mind control, I mean, think about it. Can you imagine a man in the position of the president, right, being a mind-controlled puppet? So literally, who else could be? You know, think about it. When you look at these presidents sometimes and they talk, or some of these other politicians, you know, it's not always, the most powerful people aren't always the people up there talking. Well, often it's the people behind them. And I'm willing to bet Cheney and Bush Sr. knew a lot about this, the mind control. So I'm willing to bet Cheney probably had keys to W. Because
yeah, exactly.
When you look at him, why do you think he has, everybody said, oh, he's depressed, and he's painting pictures of himself in the bathtub. Did you see that? About 8 months ago, they made a big deal. Oh my God, former President George W. Bush is depressed. And because somebody hacked, what happened was, somebody had, I guess, hacked his email, or that's the story, that they hacked his email, and these pictures of him, these private paintings he had came out, so they had to talk about it briefly, and then it went away. Well, why would he be depressed? I mean, he's a president. He's a Bush. And when you look at him, you can see he's very sheepish. When you see interviews being done, do you ever see him by himself? No. Who's always at his side? Little wifey. Who like a hawk watches what he says? Wifey. So she's probably his handler now. I'm sure she was his handler somewhat back then. I'm sure at one point, though, that he had to have other people because he was being marched around. But I'm sure she had the keys. But you can see she's probably his number one babysitter now. Now, why would he be painting pictures of himself? One of them was in this just understanding mind control. It was a picture of himself in a bathtub, and like you could see his feet, and it was almost like he was looking down above himself from the ceiling down. And I was like, he's seeing himself as if he's trapped in his mind, and he's seeing himself do other stuff, and it's like watching another personality control. It's the first thing I thought of. Like it's almost as if his main, George personality that he was born with is watching one of the other multiples control himself in the bathtub, or he's having a vision of something like that, and that's what it's having an effect on it. What do you think, Fritz?
Oh, you're hitting the nail on the head there. He had one personality data boy that had a photographic memory that would just memorize like baseball scores for his handler's amusement. On the other hand, when he was doing interviews as the president, because I had a whole book that just is full of little incidents where he acts like a total idiot as president. And in one of the things that he says while he's president, you realize that the altar that was speaking did not even know the difference between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Now imagine, that's frightening. That's frightening that you could have someone who's a multiple, who could have parts. But of course, this is the way it's going to be. But he had parts that didn't have a clue how the government was put together. And if those parts came out, they're totally lost. They're not capable of functioning in reality. So that leads me to believe too that his mind control was not working up to par. He must have been heavily traumatized, and his mind control must have been shaky, because at times he acts like a total idiot.
Well, yeah, if you see him now, he's like a bumbling tart. You look at him, he's not even, he looks like a little boy. Literally, he looks like a little boy, and Laura Bush is more of a mommy to him than anything else. And then, maybe they'll snap him out of it, and you'll see him in an interview, and he'll sound very presidential or ex-presidential or whatever, and he'll say something that he's probably been practicing for, that personality's been practicing for a week or 2 weeks. And they're probably very selective now. They can go back and look at his blooper reel from years ago and say, nope, well, we can't have that one out. We know which personality that was. But people don't realize, that's some scary stuff. When they make fun of him, oh, he's a moron. It's like, dude, again, I'm not defending Bush. I whatever. But he is what he is. I don't like him or his family. But you have to wonder, how much trauma was that individual himself put through, and how sick and twisted of an individual is his father for doing that to his own child. How sick of an individual do you have to be that you would actually traumatize your own child with torture? That's absolutely disgusting. Bush Sr., Nazi. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment. Man, the 2 hours just flew right by. This happened the last time Fritz came on. I was actually, first time I interviewed him ever, I was supposed to do like I think like an hour and a half interview with him, and it ended up being like 3 hours. It was just great, because Fritz is just a wealth of information, and the only way you're going to be able to get all the information that's in Fritz's head, aside from listening to the multitude of interviews that he's done with people would be to go to his website, pentrax.com, and get his books. I have his books. I use them for research myself. I urge you to do so. Fritz, final segment here. We got about 5.5 minutes till the end of the show. I like to usually end on a positive note if I have the time. Sometimes with guests we don't have the time, but I'm glad that you're down for positivity and solutions. So, if I said to you, what would be a solution that you could offer to the audience, what would you say?
There are lots of solutions. There are a lot of things to do. And the solutions begin with ourselves. We purify ourselves. We focus on Christ. And, it says in the Word that faith overcomes the world. By extension, faith overcomes the New World Order. People ask the wrong question. They say, well, what can we do? Can we defeat them? And that's the wrong question. When you start on a trip, you're given no guarantee that you're going to finish that trip. Every day we get up, we have to take another shower. So it's not like we shower one time and we're finished with the job. So we're not given any guarantees, but a good person is going to respond to evil in a good way. We can't overcome evil with evil, but we can overcome it with good. There's a little match of light in a dark room will light up the entire dark room. So one person with the truth has a lot of power. And I've seen repeatedly how if we take the moral high ground, we have a lot of power. My life is evidence that somebody who's a nobody can stand up and get a lot accomplished, and God's preserved me through all of this. I've had a lot thrown at me over the years, and God's preserved me. And that doesn't mean that tomorrow he may let me go on to something, I won't be preserved. But as long as he preserves me, I'm going to continue trying to walk in the path that he wants me to. And each person out there can do the same. If we each do our job, if everybody would take care of their own backyard, then the whole world would be taken care of. A thunderstorm is made up of little raindrops. We're each a little raindrop, so we all need each other. I need you, and likewise, we need the listeners, and all together, we can do something. We can be that thunderstorm that washes away all of this negativity and evil.
Well said, Fritz. That coincides with my original intro that I usually play as a speech. My old intro to my broadcast used to be different than the one I have now. And it was a mix down of the Al Pacino speech from Any Given Sunday. And I had cut it up, and it was very fitting, and it was very motivational. And I titled it Inches. And it's exactly what you just said. I mean, to the T. You hit the nail right on the head, man. You're right. You're 100% right. We need to stop letting our petty differences keep us divided and not focused on the real problem, which are the powers that shouldn't be, the Illuminati, these real evil people who have no good intentions whatsoever for any of us. I don't care what you think they do, or that they, some of these people aren't so bad. Some of these people that you say, I think Hillary Clinton's a swell gal. She's not. You may think she's nice if you're a woman, and you might think she's empowering for other women. She's not. She's evil. She's a horrible role model. There are way better women out there to have as a role model. Okay, many of them. Many women who deserve praise. She is not one of them. Okay, the only thing she deserves is to be behind bars for a very long time, or handle however you would handle a traitor, and someone that's evil as she is. And I'll leave it at that. Fritz, we got about a minute. And I want to tell you, man, I want to thank you so much for not only coming on the broadcast, but I want to thank you for doing what you do. Again, I consider you a friend, and I know that you've put your life on the line to get this information out over the years, going back to when you were doing speeches at the Prophecy Club all the time and going around and doing speeches. And really, man, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and from the I know everybody else. I know I can actually speak for anybody that's researched this stuff and like appreciates what you do. Thank you so much, man. If it weren't for you, I don't know what we would have done. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. 45 seconds left. I don't know how to. I don't know how to end it. I really don't. I wish I had more time. I don't want to end it, but we have to. So, I'm going to have Fritz back on. What say you? Yes? Good. I'll have him back on hopefully maybe within the next month or so. I'll see. I'll try to work it out. Anyway, we're out of time. The solutions to our problems are an inside job, like I say often, ladies and gentlemen. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. Let's try love instead of hate. With that, I'm out. I'll catch you all again live tomorrow night. Pentracks.com is Fritz's site. Check it out. Pentracks.com. I'm out of here.